Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Jim Muehlhausen, who's the CEO of CEO Focus and author of Don't Sell Your Business, Half Retire, a new exit strategy for business owners. Jim, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Hey, so I'm excited to talk about this because I know this is a really unique twist on retiring and business succession. So I'm excited to learn about the new book that you've just put together. But bring us up to speed on your background. What led you to the business coaching and consulting world with CEO Focus, and then we'll jump into what gave you the idea to come up with this book, Don't Sell Your Business, Half Retire.
Sure. So I was lucky enough to grow up with a family business, and I pushed them into letting me be involved in things I had no business being involved with since I was 13 years old. And so I always knew I wanted to be in business for myself. And after a semester of law school, I realized I wasn't going to be a lawyer, so I ended up buying a franchise for a car fixing franchise, despite not being a car guy nor handy. Grew that during law school, did pretty well doing it, enough that I never needed to practice law, and then just kind of went through a series of different businesses, a lot of them in automotive. But during a 9-year stint in one of those companies, I joined a CEO peer group like CEO Focus and loved it. It was a great experience. I truly believe that every business owner should be in a peer group because you get things that you just can't get any other way in a small business. And then I ended up going to work with what eventually became CEO Focus. Started that back in 2001, so it's been a while. And here we sit. But the 3 books that I've written are all taken from my experiences learning from business owners. I mean, frankly, no one wants to hear what I think. What's much more important is what other business owners think. And I'm just an aggregator, a compiler, and then I throw a little spice in there and maybe some insight into some of that data that I've gathered. But I've had 11,000 coaching sessions with business owners and counting. So I've had an opportunity to learn a lot, and that's where Half Retire came from, was seeing business owners struggling with, what do I do? I'm getting older. I don't want to keep running at the speed I'm running. I went to the business broker, and they told me it's only worth X, and I couldn't believe it. Now what do I do? I can't sell this for enough to maintain my lifestyle. I don't want to keep going the way that I'm going. What do you do? And I saw a lot of them putting their head in the sand and pretending like they weren't getting older.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting because your point is so well taken, which is it's not Jim Muehlhausen's sage advice, although it's flavors of it. It's you noticing things from all of your work with people, and you're synthesizing and aggregating, and really just noticing trends and threads of commonality throughout all of that to go, you know what, that's a good point here. Ooh, that's a big mistake people are making. Hey, that's a great opportunity people are making. And then when you can pull it all together, I mean, that's what most of the big trainers in any industry do these days, is they take some of the best trainings out there and then put it together in their unique way. So I really like how you phrase that. And I really have a feeling that in your world, you've noticed people, business owners going, well, we've always done it that way. And I think that the whole concept of the word retire is, I'm at X age and my business is this mature and I'm now going to retire, sell, move on, and do whatever they're going to do. So at what point did you start noticing that people maybe shouldn't go, it's kind of like black, white, yes, no, retire or not retire? How did the concept of not retiring fully and half retiring come up?
Well, it's really 2 prongs. I think that the generation that I'm in probably doesn't want to do the gold watch, retire, lie in a hammock. That sounds boring to a lot of them, especially being the adrenaline junkies that we are as business owners. And so the thought of fully retiring, as I like to call it, is not attractive to a lot of business owners. That's part of the reason why they're doing what they're doing. But then they have that dichotomy that I was talking about before, right? Boy, I love all the perks that come with business. I get my sports tickets and my car and my country club membership and status and social connections and all the perks aside from the income that come from your business, and we don't want to give that up, and you don't have to. But by the same token, you just can't keep grinding like when you were 40. Yeah. And so I saw people that didn't want to retire because they felt like they'd be bored. And then you saw people that could not afford to retire. Now, I don't have $10 million in the bank so that I can sell my business for whatever someone will pay for it. And I can't seem to get to the magic number that my financial planner told me. But imagine if I could show up for work a couple of days a week, keep the income that I have, ditch the stress, but keep the income. And we call that shifting from hard-earned income, where you're really earning your paycheck by showing up every day. And if you didn't, you really don't deserve to get paid, to equity income, just like if you owned a stock that paid you a dividend. I mean, you have equity in your business. That should have value more so than you just showing up and getting paid for doing the job you do.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, because that's really a mindset shift, because it's like your intellectual property that you poured into this venture. If you were if you started it years ago, this is your baby, it's your creation. So it really is a shift in mindset, isn't it?
Absolutely. And, different businesses have different, we call it step 4 in our 6-step process, we call re-leveraging assets. And this is exactly what we're talking about. And that may be some special skill that you have. We call that your Picasso work. We're the only one that can really do these special, highly valuable things that really don't take a bunch of time. And we need to separate the slog from the Picasso work, remove the stuff that is just work. And we have a 5-step technique that we call fever to get rid of that work. But and you mentioned mindset. That's actually step 2 in there. And it's very important. We don't even get to how you get rid of the work until we talk about the mindsets, because a lot of business, the mindset that got you from startup to today is not the mindset that will get you from today to half retired in many regards.
Yeah, and have you found in your work, because I've read this and seen this in industries, that there are certain people that don't want the spotlight, that don't want the thought leadership position in any type of a venture, but they do want the operation, the day-to-day, and they enjoy that. So that is the type of person that you may want to bring on or groom to align with, so that you could then shift yourself into more of the doing the Picasso work and working as an equity owner, not as the working owner, and let that person shine doing all of the operational type things, and they're, increase their ownership percentage, so they're loving that, and they don't want to be the one that kind of is the one guiding the processes. Can you speak a little bit about that, or is that an accurate depiction as well?
It can be. It can also be a trap, and the trap we lovingly call the mini-me plan. Oh, I know how I'll retire. I'll just hire mini-me. They'll do all the work that I do, and I've never seen that plan work. We always tell a joke. We tell a joke, the only person the mini-me plan worked for was Austin Powers.
Yeah,
it has never worked for a business owner. What you described was is a plan that will work, right? That you carve out a piece of your work. In particular, you should give yourself permission to do the work you like and not do the work you don't like.
Yeah.
We always say just because you can doesn't mean you should. And a lot of business owners can do a lot of things well. That's why you're a business owner. It's why you're good at what you do, because you do lots of things well. But some of them are not your passion. It may not be a great skill fit. I'm sure you, like me, have experienced something where you were doing something and then you found a way to hand that off despite maybe not being able to do that at the beginning. And then you realize 2 years later that it's being done better than when you did it, because you've got better process, because you've got tighter systems, because you've given someone more time to do it, right? We're always rushed, and so you and I are giving it 30 minutes and someone else has 2 hours. Well, their chances of doing it better are pretty good when they've got 4 times the hours to put into it.
And I think probably one of the shifts, let's call it, or the mindset is when you discover these certain tasks that you're no longer going to do and you now start offloading them to actually keep your hands out of it, because the temptation will be to kind of peek over the edge and go, oh, yeah, but what you need to do is you need to stay in your lane and do now your, Picasso work and let those other people that you've offloaded the work to. But too often, I'm sure you see people that still keep their hands in it, may as well just be doing it.
Yeah, it's never as simple as simply delegating. And you know why? Because we all know what delegation is, right? We all understand the concept of delegation. We've done it before. If the work that you would like to get rid of could be delegated in its current form, you would have already done it. It's undelegable. This is part of the magic sauce of half-retire process. It's a shortcut. People are just trying to shortcut. Oh, I'll just delegate it and I'll give it to mini-me and then I'm done. Check next. You haven't delegated it for a reason, and it's because it's undelegable in its current form. And we call that a hairball, right? That it's just this messy hairball and you can't delegate the whole hairball. But you can delegate a lot of it. And we have to untangle that hairball. Like I said, there's a process that we use to do that. But first you have to realign those mindsets to even be able to untangle that hairball. And then once you do, you learn that process, and all of a sudden you start looking at your world and you're like, holy cow, I can't believe that I've been doing it this way. Sometimes you can just get rid of doing it. You just go, I really don't need to do this.
Yeah, exactly. And then probably you start getting motivated every step along the way when you do allow yourself to let the other parts go and you stay in your lane, and then you start looking around going, this feels way better and different. And look, we still met this goal and we're still moving forward. And wasn't part of that, but it's going, and I think that when you can start noticing that, and that will motivate you to keep in your lane, and then that allows things to blossom.
Well, yeah, most people that are in the half-retire program give us a pretty tall order. And here's what the tall order typically is, 80% of the time. I need to maintain my current level of income. I want to radically cut my workload. Our goal is 2 half days a week. But plenty of people say, hey, listen, if I could go in 3 full days a week, I'd be elated. You get to define what half retirement means for you. But let's just say cut your time in half. Jim, I'd like you to cut my time in half. I want to keep my level of income, but I don't want to hire anybody. Because if you just go to delegation, someone has to do that work.
Yeah.
Well, most likely that's going to be another person that you have to hire. Well, that now lowers your profit, because you just paid someone to do work you were doing. We're charged with not having that happen. Keep the profitability the same. Don't hire anybody. Cut my work in half. And we can do that.
Yeah.
We can't do it with everybody. You can't do it with everybody, but that's our goal every single time.
Wow. Well, that makes me think of what is the typical picture of a business that might be well suited for half retirement. So a business owner. So are they a certain age, or is the business at a certain maturity level? Usually
they are 55 and over. However, I just talked to a 40-year-old with a very nice business in California that wants to half retire, and he's 39 years old.
Yeah.
The concept's so valid, right? I'd like to work half the time and keep the money I make. You could be 18, and that's attractive.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, I remember years ago the book 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. He was talking about forget retiring, just take these little long vacations where your business can still run, and you go for 3 or 4 months to wherever, and that can extend out the time where you feel like you're still viable. But this is a whole different mindset that just really locks it down tight. But you mentioned the younger person, the 40-year-old. It made me think of like these serial entrepreneurs. You could take the half-retire concept and system and build a business and half retire from that, so that you can move on to your next venture. And maybe you're not literally half retiring and kicking back. You're just freeing up your time to then launch the next venture, because I'm sure those principles and concepts would apply in that.
Absolutely. Most business owners get bored after a couple of years. You don't want to know how many business owners I talk to that sold their business for plenty of money. They have no financial concerns whatsoever. But after a couple of years, they've traveled the world, they've kicked a lot of items off their bucket list, they played a lot of golf, and they're now bored.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the, like you mentioned, the type A+++, 2 weeks into a vacation, you're already getting bored. So I couldn't imagine fully retiring. So when you have a business owner come to you and say, okay, read the book, saw the workshop, masterclass, I'm all in, and, tell me what to do, Obi-Wan Kenobi, where do you start? What's the first place that you're working with them on to begin the process?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we've got a 6-step process. The first is what we call the magnet. You have to have a reason to half retire. Hey, this sounds interesting, not a reason. I'll give you a good reason. I had a woman that made some miraculous strides very quickly in the program, and she and her husband agreed that they would retire together. He had a job, she had a business. And she said that was 2 years ago that I promised him I would retire, and I have broken my promise to him, and I feel badly about it. I got to get serious. And what I've tried has not worked. This looks like it will get me to where I need to be. But she did not want to sell the business. She had family that worked in the business, so she did not want to get rid of it. She felt like her role was vital. That Picasso work, the business would not work without it. I think that's one of the differences of half retire versus some other stuff. You could be what I call CEO emeritus. You see that car dealers a lot, right? The person with their name on the door is 85 years old, and you see them wandering around shaking hands and just saying hi to people, but they don't really do anything. That's a CEO emeritus. That is not half retired. Half retired, I need your Picasso work. The business needs your Picasso work. No one else can do your Picasso work. But it doesn't take 40 hours a week to do it. It probably takes 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And that adds up to a tremendous amount of value to the business, and that's how you justify your paycheck.
And I, like you mentioned about the tall order where people are going, I still want to make this and don't want to hire and don't want to have our profits. That's a tall order, but I would venture to say that when you can deliver on that, it's not an immediate switch like, okay, day 2, boom, we're doing it. There's a little dip where we've got to have a process. You got to let the process take root and take place. And then, that Picasso work is happening. And then now you're making these shifts and these mindsets and these process and operation shifts. And then in a period of time, the owner sits back and goes, at the beginning I wondered, 2 months in, I was like, this might have some legs. And now this much time in, it's starting to take place in that momentum. What does that curve look like?
Well, I'm going to give you the it depends answer because it does. By the same token, it still is the same framework for everybody, right? So we get one-person businesses. Okay, I've got a person that owns a traffic engineering company, and it's a one-person business. Can he add the same leverage that someone that had 50 people, available and at their disposal? That's an asset. 50 people that you can have help you is an asset that you don't have in a one-person company. However, have we radically reduced the business's dependence upon him and his hours, and is he happier and all? Yes. But, it's going to be a different process for him versus somebody else. So to answer your question, I think it depends a little bit about your mindsets. That's step 2. Some people are reticent and slower at changing their mindsets. This woman that I was just talking about, in 6 weeks, cut her work in half. Yeah. And then spent a solid month with her grandkids 6 weeks into the process when she couldn't step away for half a day before then. That's pretty miraculous. But a lot of the impediments and the roadblocks were in that mindset. The real work I think that you're alluding to is done in step 3 that we call the Jenga process. So if you've ever played the game Jenga with the wood towers before, so you ever played and you push on a piece and the whole tower kind of spins and it almost tips over because you thought it was loose, but it was like rock solid stuck in there? Yeah. That's you. That Jenga piece is you and your business. If I try to remove that piece from the business, it's stuck. And that tower is going to tip over, and every business owner feels that way. Yep. But as you remember from playing Jenga, if you wait a few turns and a couple of other pieces around it are moved, the weight shifts. And now that piece can slide out easily because of the adjustments that you've made to the business. And that's exactly what we do. So through the mindsets and the work that we do in the Jenga process, which is usually on everything from your business model to your operational systems, your sales systems, how you interact with your people, your meeting systems, all of that is done in that. It's probably the beefiest step in the process. In step 4, we work on what we call setting the autopilot, right? You need a flash management structure that doesn't take a bunch of time for you to see how the business is going, a KPI dashboard, all the things that allow you to easily and quickly manage the business. Can't have that taking a bunch of time if you're trying to be half retired. Then we're going to re-leverage assets, like I talked about in step 5. We're going to look for under-leveraged assets that can provide some fuel and some cash to pay for some initiatives that you may want to do to speed your half retirement. And then in step 6, we call it enjoying the spoils, right? You get to go on vacation for a month and not worry about it.
Yeah. And, I think that, I don't know that we've touched on this, but this one of the benefits that I foresee this concept of half retire is there's so many business owners that feel like I don't want to just retire and do nothing, like we talked about playing golf, but it's also an aspect of kind of missing out on what they've created. So being able to successfully come through these 6 steps and now look back and go, look, I can work the 2 days a week and take a month off and all of these things, but yet I don't have that separation anxiety of I lost something that I created, and I hope they're doing well by me, years later. They're still involved in the process, and there's that little bit of a tie, but yet they have now gone at such arm's distance that the business is running and flourishing, and they are benefiting from it being the Picasso, but yet it's not that cut. Is that something that you've seen some of your owners experience as well?
Absolutely. I'll put that into bucket number 3, but I'm going to add a little piece to it. And we call this one, what happens to my people? And I guess I'll put you in the people. Like, what happens to my business when I sell it? There's some pretty surprising things that people don't think about when they sell their business. Number 1, when you sell your business, technically everyone is fired. So nobody works there. As soon as you sign those papers, they're all fired. It is at the discretion and grace of the new owner who gets rehired. And I'm sure you've seen it. I've seen it too. Now, you can make contracts and stuff like that, but frankly, that makes the business harder to sell. Great, so now I'm saddled with your idiot uncle for 2 years because you want him to have a job. Well, I'm just going to take that out of you when I pay you. I don't want to be saddled with a contract for someone that may or may not be valuable, and I don't want to not be able to get rid of someone that I need to get rid of. Imagine if someone forced that on you. And usually business owners give up on those because buyers aren't stupid. They're like, I don't want to be saddled with a contract for this person that I don't know. Yes, you say they're valuable, but if they're valuable, believe me, I don't want to get rid of them either, but I don't want to owe you employment for them for 2 years. Yeah. Right, so that becomes a negative deal term, and usually what happens is the buyer's like, no, and then the seller gives up on it. And they go, I got to get this deal done. I'll let go of the 2-year deal for Sally or Bob.
Yeah,
and it doesn't happen. But in half retirement, you now control it. Statistically, 25% of your people will lose their job when you transfer ownership.
Yeah. And you just need to come to that realization and just own that and realize that's what's going to happen, because it's not, I think that, again, to get back to that word mindset, once you realize that's going to happen, then that makes it easier when you see that it happened.
Well, not even that, it's data, right? Don't pretend that 0% of the people are going to lose their job. Realistically, 25%, and it may be the 25% that you don't want to lose it. I mean, I'll tell you a quick story. I had a client that had a business printing millions of T-shirts. They had a very loyal employee that had been there for about 25 years doing it. They hung on to the business. They had several divisions, and they held on to this business long past where they should have to keep this guy employed. It was a big part of their decision-making. They're wonderful people, and they basically lost a little bit of money every year to keep this very loyal family friend / employee around. They eventually couldn't take it anymore. They found a deal, and they did negotiate employment for him, and it was obvious that they should keep him around. Okay, so they negotiated a 1 or 2 year deal for this guy because he ran it. The people were like, yeah, it makes some sense. So they did agree to that. 2 months into working there, he calls up his former boss and says, hey, I want to let you know I quit my job because I really haven't had any passion for the T-shirt business for a long time.
Oh, wow.
So here she kept his business for a couple of years, very painfully kept the business for a couple of years for his benefit, and he wasn't digging it either. This is the kind of crap that happens during sale. We take on all this baggage that we shouldn't take on. And to me, you can remove all of that mental anguish by half retiring. And while we're on the topic of selling, keep in mind that half retirement doesn't preclude you from selling it.
Sure. Right. That's a great point. Yeah, I love that story because it's like, oh, if I'd only known that, that kind of goes to let's keep lines of communication open and all of that. Well, Jim, I just love the concept of half retire, and I know that people will love and enjoy this book. What's the best way that people can reach out to you through your website and pick up a copy of Half Retire?
Well, the book's available anywhere you buy books, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, etc. The site is halfretire.com. There's some good free downloadable goodies on the site. There's a blueprint that will talk about the process. There's a free webinar that you can get on if you want to learn more about the 6-step process that I've talked about. You can find that there as well. But certainly you can pick it up on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com, and it'll walk you through the process of what you need to do to go from where you stand to being half retired.
Excellent. Well, Jim, thank you so much for your time today. It was wonderful talking about your new book.
All right. Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneurssradio.com.